Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to discuss the James Bond movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service from 1969, directed by Peter Hunt and starring George Lazenby as James Bond. I really like on Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's a very unusual Bond movie, especially at the time, because in the 60s it was Sean Connery who played Bond, who was of course the greatest Bond in my opinion. But the movies has sort of a formula, and that was kind of like find the villain who has this over the top world domination plan, and then kills the villain and get the Bond girl, and then live happily ever after, something like that. And this movie is very different than that, both from the beginning and through the movie. It takes its time, especially in the beginning, and I really like that. I actually think the beginning of the movie is the best. It really also develops Bond a bit more as a character, and also the Bond girl, Diana Rigg. And I think Diana Rigg is the greatest actress who has played a Bond girl in my opinion. She's phenomenal in this movie, and I really think she helps carrying the movie. It's really also, I know there's been a lot of criticism of George Lazenby as an actor, but I really like him actually. I think he doesn't try to copy Sean Connery at all. Sure, he has the same haircut as him, but in terms of his performance, he tries to do his own thing. And I think he does a great job actually. Sure, he was not a great actor, but if you really look at the Bond actors, how many great actors are there that have played James Bond? Yeah, sure, Sean Connery is great. Timothy Dalton was great. Great actors. But the other ones, I don't think so. Roger Moore was has great comedic sense. He was really great at playing with his comedy, and he's sort of playing with his eyebrows, and he has a great sense of humor, but he wasn't a great actor. Pierce Brosnan wasn't a great actor as well, and Daniel Craig is okay, but I don't think he's a great actor. So I don't know, but they are usually talked about with more praise. You know, when people discuss them, they talk about these actors. But I actually think George Lazenby is one of the best. But maybe I'm a bit weird on that. I think he does a fine job, George Lazenby. He doesn't have the charm maybe as some of the other ones, but he's very good in the physical part, and also think in the more intimate scenes. But on Her Majesty's Secret Service, of course, goes in a very different way than the usual Bond movies, especially near the end, where Bond is suddenly, he wants to marry Tracy, and he falls in love with her, and then in the right, he of course managed to go to Blofeld's office in the Swiss Alps. And he of course he does his mission as he always does. So in that way, it's a typical Bond movie. And but in the very end, Blofeld, when Bond is married to Tracy, Blofeld gets revenge on Bond and kills Tracy. Or it's actually his the woman, I can't remember her name, but the great sort of, can't remember her name, the German actress, I think she was, but she's also a part of when they are in Switzerland. Great actress, by the way, and she of course shoots after Bond and Tracy, and Tracy eventually dies, and it's very great and tragic ending. I absolutely adore this ending. I think it's the best Bond ending in any of the movies, and what I like about it is that it just ends there in this quiet moment. It's not like, for example, if you look at Casino Royale or even No Time to Die, these movies also have tragic elements, but they have sort of a bit of triumph in the end. But this movie doesn't have that triumph. It just ends right after when Tracy is killed, and it's a very subtle and quite poetic way to end the movie, I think. Yeah, sure, and also have to mention John Barry's excellent score in this. He did the greatest Bond score in any movies is on Her Majesty's Secret Service, in my opinion. There isn't, it's perfect in my opinion. Every melody, every song. Then I think there's of course the theme melody in the beginning when the opening theme, and that's of course iconic. And then there's We Have All the Time in the World when Bond is escaping from Blofeld, and there's this, and he goes down and finds Tracy with all the people in the Swiss town. Then there's also a song, Christmas song, which is also pretty cool. But also all John Barry's melodies in the movie is very, very beautiful. I think it's a top-notch Bond soundtrack in this. I also like in the beginning of the movie when Bond discovers Tracy, she is trying to commit suicide, and I sort of found that to be a little poetic element to the movie, that she doesn't want to live there, and she probably feels captured by her own father and by the men in her world, and then Bond comes to rescue her, and she thinks, why are you doing this? And then that man is the one she sort of falls in love with, and sort of she starts to see a meaning with life, and then and of course get married to him, and then in the end she's sort of killed. I find that element to be quite poetic actually. Another cool thing I also like is Bond's introduction when he drives after Tracy in the beginning, and there's some very cool editing while you don't see his face. You only see when he tries to smoke, a bit like Dr. No. There's sort of a reference there. I really like that subtlety, that you sort of can pay homage to the former Bonds and do it on your own way. And the movie has really great editing and cinematography in this. Probably the best in the whole series, I think. Really experimental. It looks very different than the usual Bond movies does. And I also sort of think it's the most sort of it's the most experimental and sort of the most creative Bond movies. And of course, Peter Hunt, the director, was an editor on the former Bond movies, so I think he has sort of taking it all in. He knows what is a good Bond movie and know what is not so good Bond movie, and he tries to make his own style, and I really like that. If I have an issue with it, and I must admit, I don't think, even though On a Majesty's Secret Service has become sort of a movie that everyone praises nowadays, and I agree it is one of the best Bond movies, but I do think it has some weaknesses. One specific is when Bond goes to Switzerland, and I think it starts to lose a bit of its focus when he goes up there, and suddenly his voice is stopped by another actor, and he goes in this very dated suit, and there's all these Bond women up in the Alps, and they are all incredible, stupid and horny, and everyone wants to fuck Bond, let's say it directly, and there are some comedic elements, and it's a bit fun, but I think it takes a bit too long, and I do think it becomes a bit silly, in my opinion, even though there are some good scenes up there, but I think it takes too long, as I said before. And it's first when Bond is sort of captured by Blofeld, when they start to understand that this character, he's in Bond is of course in disguise there. He tries to be another person, and when the villains know that he is Bond, then it starts to become more interesting again. But I think there's some moments there in the Alps that is a bit too long and a bit too silly. Another thing I wish the movie could have done better is that they could have developed Bond's relationship with Tracy a bit more, because there's some wonderful scenes near the beginning and also in the end. But when Bond suddenly proposed to Tracy, I think it comes, I've always felt it's a bit off. It's a very great scene and a sweet scene, and also a very romantic scene actually, but I just always felt like they have been separated during the movie, and then he sort of sees her again, and then suddenly he wants to marry her. And I've never really, even though I have seen a great mutual respect and maybe even flirtation between them, I've never really felt in the beginning they were really in love. So I feel that it feels too quick when he wants to marry her, and I feel like instead of all these scenes in Switzerland when he goes to the one Bond girl after the another up there, I think some of that could have been deleted, and I would have rather seen a bit more of Tracy and Bond's relationship near the beginning, because they have great chemistry, George Lazenby and Diana Rigg. So I think that was maybe another thing I think the movie could have done better. But overall, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a wonderful movie in my opinion. And the most beautiful of all Bond movies in terms of how it looks, and also in terms of sort of the emotions during the movie. I think many, it has tried, some of the other Bond movies have tried to sort of been influenced by this, but I think this is one that works the best in terms of in terms of the relationship between the Bond and the Bond girl. And I really think it's one of the best in the series. So I'm going to rate this like, I would give it 8 stars out of 10, I think. It's a great movie with some weaknesses. Yeah, that was all I'm going to say about this movie. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of this movie. And I hope you all will have a great day.